Hi there, Rad Mom here. Welcome back to The Garden, my happy place to talk about scary things. This week we have the state of the left in America today, with the help of Anna Kasparian, who is in the midst of a political awakening.
I can't emphasize enough how much happier you become once you have a better understanding of the world around you and those you disagree with politically.
And what she is observing is the outcome of long-term ideological sabotage. You know what they say, follow the money. It all comes back to economics. Who has money and how much? Leftism is egalitarianism. Egalitarianism being the doctrine that all people are equal and deserve equal rights and opportunities. I like that word. It's big and clunky, but that's why it's unpopular and still means what it means. And I don't think that people like Anna are any less egalitarian than they've ever been. The left has become a sock puppet. Basically the same thing that's been done to feminism over the last 70 years or so. We talked about this in the Has Feminism Been Compromised video, and I'll link that down below. I hope you'll go watch that one. But this is more general. This has been done to the left across the board. This has been a concerted effort on the part of people that don't believe everybody is equal at all.
Right now, there's, in my opinion, this effort to really demonize and even dehumanize the other side. And there's a lot of fear mongering going on. And if you have bought into that narrative, then you're going to walk through life thinking that half the country is full of neo-Nazis and, they're going to want to harm you. They're going to want to, destroy the country. And I just don't think that's a healthy way of looking at the other side. That binary way of thinking is just not rooted in reality at all.
Not at all.
Yeah. And I also know that no side has a monopoly on the truth. No side has a monopoly on what's right. And by the way, I'm speaking all high and mighty. I just want to take a moment to take ownership of the fact that I fully bought into that mind frame. I totally bought into that.
And props to Anna for having the guts to come out and look really silly here, because what she's saying just sounds like the mature approach, at least from where I'm sitting, that I do wish more people would adopt.
I think both sides have some really great points. Both sides have some serious flaws that they refuse to work on because they won't even acknowledge those flaws.
But I don't have a whole lot of patience with her whole both sides thing. I don't have a whole lot of patience with this coming from anybody unless they're willing to acknowledge the thing that she says later, but apparently has not connected this yet. So we're going to go ahead and give her a little bit of help there.
I'm a little more socially conservative than I was when I was younger. They couldn't wait to purge me. I really did notice that there was this effort to just do away with me. I'm not pure enough. I'm not good enough. You're not one of us.
This is not an egalitarian mindset in the slightest, is it?
And I had already gotten to a point in my life where I was willing to accept that treatment as long as I was able to speak my mind. And it took me at least a year, if not more, to finally feel comfortable to come out and say, no, the way that we're handling homelessness is not the right way to handle it. No, it turns out that crime is real, and there are some people in society who are a danger and a threat to the public, and they should be in prison. And, I was saying this stuff in the left-wing era of abolish the police or abolish the prisons. And
a lot of people have criticized her also along the lines of only terminally online people actually believe any of that extreme stuff. Well, who in the hell do you think she is? Where do you think she makes her bread and butter? She's been in liberal media forever and is probably surrounded by a lot of the people that have been perpetuating some of these extreme narratives. Yeah. So for her, this has been very real.
As they were trying to purge me, you have the right wing asking you to come join with open arms, right? And it's just so interesting to me.
That is interesting. I've been talking about this for years. I noticed this years ago. People have been leaving the left for ages because they don't understand what leftism is actually about. Are you any less convinced that everyone should be equal? Which I might remind everybody is in the preamble to the Declaration of Independence. It is literally the founding idea of this country. So there's that. The right wing, the conservative side of politics is in reaction to that idea. They are against the idea that everybody is equal. That's the whole point of that. That's what they're trying to conserve, is the old order before that took effect.
I have a few views that have changed and evolved, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm in line with the Republican Party.
Right.
And I'm so glad that Anna can see that. It's startling to me how many people seem to say to themselves, well, I can't identify as a Democrat anymore, so I guess I'm going to give the Republicans a try. No. Conservatives are not your friends.
But they don't care. They don't care that I have some differences with them. What they care about is, honestly, on one hand, if I'm being cynical, power.
That's right. At the moment, they don't care.
But there's also this faction in the Republican voting base that consists of disaffected Democrats. And I don't know if they've fully bought into what Republicans are selling, but they don't feel welcome on the left.
At the moment, they're trying to pitch a wide tent.
So they've been absorbed onto the right.
Yes.
And I'm seeing the right wing change.
But their agenda at the end of the day is not going to change.
And I now see that Dick Cheney is endorsing Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is going around town talking about how honored she is. And I'm like, you're honored to be endorsed by a war criminal? That's not the party that represents me or represents my best interests.
So the Republican and Democrat optics are shifting. And yet not a whole lot is actually changing. And things seem to just kind of be getting worse all over the place. Why in the world would that be?
Yeah, they've spun the narrative, though.
Mhm.
They're like, look, even people are so worried about Trump that people like Dick Cheney have joined our side.
Yes,
I'm like,
yes.
no. That implies that you will do his bidding. And when I try to have this conversation with the people on the left, and I'm trying not to shut anybody on the left out, right?
That's good, because repeating the same mistake with a different group of people would be a lateral move, wouldn't it? And this is what frustrates me so much with this left rhetoric. Is did you actually leave the view that all people are equal? Because if not, you haven't left the left. The left left you. And maybe we shouldn't be just ceding liberalism to what is not egalitarian in any way whatsoever.
But they are the least tolerant, and they eat their own.
They do. That's a huge problem on the left.
They eat their own. Oh, not left enough. You're gone.
Eating their own is the very essence of a conservative mindset. That's purity politics.
Oh, really? You don't think you can be healthy at any size? Fat shamer, you're out of here. Not left enough.
Right.
Oh, you're not down with the medicalization of 6-year-olds who want to be a tomboy? Transphobe.
Yeah, that's right. They've tried to push me out of the left for years, and I basically refused to go. And this is the stance that I wish more people would take. All right? The right wing doesn't fucking want me. I'm still pro-abortion and pro-social programs. Just because they've managed to corrupt and dismantle them, but I'm getting ahead of myself.
Right. Yep. It's so true.
What is that? It's so myopic. You are forcing people to defect. And the concern is that it goes from California to a federal problem.
Yeah, that should be a concern.
Especially at this point, because Kamala Harris is from California.
And in fact, some of the failed policies that we've implemented here, unfortunately, have been exported to other states.
Right.
And I'll give you a quick example, because we have literally squandered $25 billion on the homeless issue over the last 5 years. And I say squandered because there was recently an audit that wanted to see, like, okay, where did the money go? Because over the last 5 years, we've spent all this money, but homelessness has exploded. Homelessness has increased by 58% since 2013. Okay, so obviously this money isn't going where it was supposed to go.
Right.
And so it turns out that the state government started giving out these grants but after 2020.
Okay.
And the grants that they would give out to were these nonprofits, newly formed nonprofits in many cases, that were tasked with helping the homeless.
So nonprofits, of course, not being beholden to the voter is an interesting method of circumventing the way the government is actually supposed to function, isn't it?
Except some investigations found they weren't actually helping the homeless. They were giving their executives some massive raises, lots of gifts to the staff. You know, there are videos of some of these nonprofits literally going to Skid Row and handing out crack pipes.
Right.
And that's their idea of helping the homeless. So the Project Room Key expansion happened. And some of these nonprofits that were tasked with converting old hotels and motels into apartment buildings for the homeless didn't finish their projects, abandoned their projects after getting tens of millions of dollars in these state government grants. And I'm furious about this.
She should be. I am too. Everybody should be. Why in the fuck isn't this front page news? This is disgusting corruption.
They stole from us. And so when you have that experience here, right, in California, and you see how all of these politicians who have all of these friends, who run all of these nonprofits, who stole our money, when you see that, it's really hard to have these conversations about how we need to increase taxes on anyone.
And that is infuriating. They've managed to corrupt these social programs to the point where they no longer work, and then it is very easy to say, look, it's broken. See, let's dismantle it. To generalize that. And that's what I've been afraid of for years. That's what I've been afraid of for a long time, is that people were going to look at these failures and just generalize that onto social programs as a whole.
Generally speaking, I'm in favor of everyone paying their fair share.
Right. Me too.
But I'm less interested in having a conversation about taxing people more when I've seen what is done with our money.
And what makes it impossible to have these conversations because we're too busy cleaning up the secondary mess that's caused by the failure of the social program.
So all of these things, all of these ideas that I used to subscribe to on the left have been implemented and they have failed. And I'm not interested in having a conversation about keeping this gravy train for a select few going because it's the, in their view, moral thing to do.
A gravy train for a select few is the antithesis of egalitarianism. These social programs have been implemented poorly and they failed. That doesn't mean that our government institutions shouldn't work to try and better the situation of all of our citizens.
Like, no, this is not moral. All of the problems that you guys said you were going to fix, you have made worse. They refuse to recalibrate, and it's infuriating.
Why? Okay. Why?
Mm-hmm.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions, am I right?
And I'm not done with California, but you said refuse to recalibrate. For the life of me, I remember Michelle Obama, Let's Move.
Mm-hmm.
Health is an alt-right issue now, which I want to get to a bit later on, but I remember the Obamas were anti-gay marriage. Then we got them to, okay, gay marriage.
Right.
And now it's, let's medicalize children and put them on off-label cancer drugs and chop off their boobs. And the Obama administration is trying to lift any age restriction on it. They tried to pass that through.
Did they really?
Yes.
Yeah.
The Biden administration has moved to remove
Mm-hmm.
any age limitation on the medicalization of gender dysphoria.
Yeah, of course they have, because that is a new recommendation from WPATH. All they're doing is following the recommendations from the medical board that's specifically set up to give those recommendations.
Mm-hmm.
I have no problem with you changing all that stuff. I just want your brain to be developed.
Mm-hmm.
And it is irrefutable that cancer drugs and puberty blockers will greatly impair a developing human body, in particular, not just your bones, your brain.
Mm-hmm.
Your brain. It says on the box of Lupron, brain swelling. Like, are we insane? And I'm watching Michelle Obama at the DNC, who I loved. Not gonna lie to you, I loved her.
Mm-hmm.
And she's advocating for that. And I'm thinking, how did you get from anti to here? There's no way you've made that quantum leap in your ideology, is there?
Well, I think what happens is
What is happening?
every action by one side leads to an equal or even more extreme reaction. And so I think what has happened, look, I'm not necessarily on board with completely banning all of those treatments.
Why not, Anna? Why not?
Like, there are cases where someone who is a minor is suffering from gender dysphoria that's so extreme, and they might be suicidal as a result of that, right? I think those cases are actually very rare.
They are very rare. And why exactly is the best treatment for suicidal depression puberty blockers, hormones, and surgery?
Much rarer than the left is willing to admit.
That's what the data shows in the CAS report.
And so in that case, I love that you brought up the CAS report. They would reject the CAS report altogether.
They do.
Yeah.
It's the fact that now you've got the CAS review and all of these different countries in Europe pull back and the US doesn't recalibrate.
Right.
To tie it back to your message of crime is up, homelessness is up. All these other countries are looking at the data and saying, well, hold on, let's put the pause on this. Let's explore this more, research more. We go deeper to remove any age limitation. Why are we incapable of recalibrating?
So much has changed, and yet, strangely, very little progress has actually been made in the last 20 years or so. And it looks to me like we can't recalibrate because there's nothing to recalibrate to. There is no actual alternative in this country. This is two sides working in tandem to funnel a whole bunch of people in the same direction, it seems to me.
What I think is actually the most toxic part about all of this is how this area of medicine has been so politicized.
Yes.
The problem with this is that it's a toxic field of medicine to begin with. The treatment for gender dysphoria should be psychotherapy.
And so doctors who want to be more cautious are, pretty viciously harassed as like, oh, they're gatekeepers. But like, no, they're the medical professionals.
So social pressure is really all you've got to maintain this. There's no there.
And they're trying to make the best possible decision on behalf of their patient. They're not just trying to be gatekeepers. They're trying to provide the best possible treatment for someone who may or may not suffer from gender dysphoria.
Regardless, we can't allow them to actually make their best medical decision because there's a really good chance that it wouldn't be transition.
I really think that women have been totally erased from this conversation. And if anyone raises their hand and says, like, actually, I'd like to be part of this conversation because this does impact me, they're harassed pretty viciously.
I can attest to that.
So much so that they might start off as liberal and all of a sudden find themselves, rubbing shoulders with the extreme right. Because the right's going to open their arms and say, come to us. We welcome you.
That is exactly what's happening.
Yep.
It is exactly what's happening, and it's fucking creepy. It is exactly what's happening because they're a bunch of creeps who are taking advantage of, disaffected, isolated people who are in a bad moment.
And when you feel like you've been attacked by your people.
Right.
And now you're standing out there in the cold wondering what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then the right opens the door.
That sounds like abuser behavior to me.
And I fight very hard within myself to stay in the center because I see the problems on the right. I have my whole life.
I'm glad that she's fighting that battle, but I think that that's the wrong way to think about it. You're not in the center. You're outside of this political bubble that has polarized itself. Yeah, but it's all very insular to itself. And that's what you're experiencing.
But when Sean Hannity and Jesse Waters are willing to have a conversation about a hearing on health at the Capitol, and CNN tells me I'm anti-science, I mean, my God, where do you think I'm going to lean? It was totally nonpartisan.
Uh-huh.
It had no other intention except to try and root out some of the corruption between big food, big farming, big pharma, big insurance, the fact that we have 10,000 chemicals in our food and 400 in Europe. How do you call that MAGA? What am I missing? Why are they doing this?
It's this, honestly, it's this brain rot of thinking that if you want to improve people's lives, right? Like, in this case, if you want people to get healthier, well, that by default means you are judgmental and hateful toward people who are either overweight or unhealthy, which is just not true.
Not only is it not true, it's not egalitarianism. Egalitarian thought itself has been corrupted and corroded for decades. Well-meaning earnest people who think that they're trying to help are carrying flawed and corrupted ideas that when implemented do not work. So the left is no longer practicing egalitarianism, and that's what we need to fix.
That's not like that leap for some reason
it
exists. I think that exists.
It was corporate advertising. I'm like, this has to be. Like,
It's
where
nuts.
is this coming from? And the part that I think, again, another big mistake is that moms care what's in their kids' food.
Of course. Yeah.
And if you tell them that caring about the fact that there's 10,000 different carcinogens in their child's breakfast cereal is MAGA,
Yeah.
you might just be signing them up.
I know. I feel like that's been happening.
Which is such a reactionary mindset to take. I really hope that more women question this. Conservatives are not your friends. I have had so many examples here on the channel of specific individuals and groups on the right of various flavors who express this with varying levels of clarity. But these people want to roll back everything that has grown from the idea that all people are equal.
By the way, who's running our country?
Yeah, I know.
Can I ask you, do you know?
Foreign policy is being
Who's
run by Blinken.
Okay.
Secretary of State.
Okay,
He's-
good. Tell me who's running things. I actually have I feel like an
Yeah.
idiot because everyone asks it, but who is? Someone's got to be doing it.
An excellent question.
I mean, it also kind of speaks to how populated that bureaucracy is.
Doesn't it, though?
Yeah, but it kind of gives me a little bit of peace knowing that.
And Anna's about to explain to us the appeal of totalitarianism.
It's both bad and good because a bunch of unelected people are making decisions that we didn't ask for and we didn't vote for. So that's a problem.
That's the problem. That's quintessentially un-American.
But it's also good in that people are going to get mad at me for saying this, but I genuinely believe it doesn't matter who gets elected.
Right.
It really doesn't matter.
I said the same thing.
That's bad, honey.
But I think the reason I say the same thing is not from any sort of probably angle you're coming from of like there's all these people behind the scenes in those positions.
Yeah.
To me, it's like you're voting for a billionaire. I mean, come on, there's Tim Walz standing next to Alex Soros. Elon Musk is giving Trump $45 million a month. And these guys are bought and paid for.
Yes.
Period.
And this is why we can't recalibrate. There's no real calibration going on here.
Yes.
You're voting for billionaires and whatever they want.
If you want to get a preview of how a president plans to lead, just look at who their donors are.
Their donors should be the American people. Roll back Citizens United. Our politicians should not be in the pocket of billionaires. But so then is it any wonder that egalitarianism is dead in this country?
We're making obviously blanket statements because there are gradations on the left and the right? So there are plenty of Democratic voters that are just like us. I think a lot of them are terrified to speak out. And I'm hoping that by speaking out myself, it'll empower them to say what they really think.
Thank you, Anna, and I hope that you're successful in that. I hope you have more success in that than I have. You know, my platform's a little smaller than yours. And while I'm frustrated with the fact that I don't think Anna's gone far enough, maybe there's a chance that her political awakening isn't over, right?
To me, it's important to get to the original source. Read the original source material for yourself. And more importantly, this is the most important thing, wait before you react.
Ooh, that's a tall order there, Anna.
It's hard. It is hard because sometimes you'll come across something online that makes you angry and you want to react. But what I've learned to do is just wait. Let this develop a little more and let's see what's really going on. And whenever you do that, typically the updates to the story paint a much more complicated picture.
And that made me laugh because that's exactly what I do, and I've talked about that on the channel before too. The video I pulled this from is called Has Anna Ditched the Left? And it doesn't sound to me like she's ditching the left so much as she is returning to journalism. But the fact that it doesn't matter who wins because they're all funded by the same small group of people is exactly the problem, Anna. Who in the hell are these people and what do they want? Should be the burning question deep in the dark heart of every journalist right now. And I feel like she's halfway there. right? It's hope anyway. She's got some integrity, and I certainly do appreciate her coming out and saying all of this. And I appreciate you for joining me out here in the garden on this beautiful autumn evening. And if you made it this far, consider subscribing to the channel so we can all work together to bring feminism back into the real world, because as you can see, we desperately need it. And come back at the top of the hour for the live stream where we can bitch and moan about the left a little more. And next week at 11 for a brand new video. All right, I'll see you then. Bye.